Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fish4Thought in conjunction and celebration of our CGIAR EMD, Dr. Ismahane Elouafi's visit to Penang, Malaysia. Thank you so much for lending your precious time with us. We truly appreciate your presence today. So Dr. Ismahane has been with us since morning, visiting the various facilities and meeting different scientists and staff. And today we are welcoming her to our Fish4Thought, which is a monthly sharing session, knowledge session that we have here at WorldFish, where we share our research and innovation in aquatic foods shared by our scientists. So now a bit of housekeeping. I hope everybody else can please settle down, and our virtual audience are with us, can hear us, can see us. And without further ado, I would like to pass the microphone to our Director General, Dr. Isam Muhammad, to welcome us and also to introduce Dr. Ismahane to the staff officially. Oh, on the stage. Thank you so much.
Good. It's really nice to see Anis increasingly acting like a professional MC these days. So that was really good interaction. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon. Could it be morning somewhere else, wherever you may be? So yes, our colleagues, particularly based in Africa, good morning, and others, good afternoon. Today, thank you very much for joining us in this very auspicious moment and event. We are privileged and honored to be joined by our newly appointed Executive Managing Director. I just don't know, Ismahane, when you stop saying I'm new. It's been, what, 2 months since you're appointed, or less? 2 months, okay. I think you can still say she's still new. Ismahane, a good friend of many of us here in the room, who has achieved a lot in her career, who is originally from Morocco, but also dual citizen of Canada, who did her PhD in Spain. So you can imagine how many languages she could probably speak. I don't know, maybe Spanish, Arabic, French, English. Can I add more? Maybe a bit more. So, but also, I think some of the notable achievements. Ismahane was senior advisor to the Assistant Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, AFSFC, research branch in Ottawa, Canada. And in 2012, Ismahane was the DG of International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, or in short, ICBA. And since 2020, chief scientist at the FAO, but also since December 2023 as the executive managing director of the CGIAR. And of course, Ismahane is familiar with the CG system. I think you did your PhD working with ICARDA and CIMIT as well, so very well familiar. And something that really made me proud recently was Ismahane was named as the 100 most influential Africans in 2023. So really huge congratulations on that, Ismahane. So. Again, I think this is really important moment for us because we generally believe we are better positioned and stronger together as one CGIAR. And we've used this metaphor in multiple occasions where we say, if you look at our food plates, it's never one single commodity. And we don't pretend to be able to solve the world hunger and other malnutrition problems through just aquatic foods, nor through any specific food commodities. If you look at our plates, there's always something, from as simple as nasi lemak or any other food type that might be. There's always plenty of food commodities there. And I think that's what makes CGIAR unique in its formation. So the strength of this coalition of different centers coming together is really important, and the potential of achieving something greater together is really immense as well. But also for us, we believe, I think as a result, there is no dispute in terms of the what of the one CGIAR, because our ambition is to be able to see aquatic foods being part and parcel or an integral part of the CGIAR. And we have huge confidence in Ismahane's vision and strategic leadership in steering us towards that direction, where we'll be able to see more collaboration with other sister centers, but also delivering impact at scale together and demonstrating efficiency gains across our entire system as well. So in this endeavor, Ismahane, please do count on us as your supporter. And we so look forward to working with you. With that said, maybe if you don't mind, Ismahane, can I invite you to say a few words to greet our colleagues and inspire us as well. So Ismahane, please.
Thank you very much, Isam, and really a pleasure to be in Malaysia finally. It was one of the countries that I really wanted to visit and to get to know. And thank you for the incredible introduction that you gave about me. Thank you very much. And as coming back to the CGR, I did my PhD with ICARDA and CIMMYT, and it's really nice. And I have been part of the CGR one way or the other over the years. So I was on IFPRI board for 6 years. I was on the system board when it started, but only for 10 weeks. And I came back because I really believe in it, because I really believe that the mission and the vision of CGR, it's needed, and it's needed today more than ever when it started. And what people need from us is different. So in the 60s, 70s, when the CGR centers were created, it got us really, there was a huge issues with famine at large, and hence the CGR got itself organized through commodities. And CGR actually was a little bit behind monoculture. So with the CGR, with the private sector, and so on and so forth, we did great things. So actually, number shows that we are able to alleviate malnutrition for about 600,000 kids per year. It says also that the number accumulatively we have affected the life positively of 1 billion people. So it's huge. But today, what the world needs from us is different. We are at a collapsing time in terms of nature and the planet Earth. We have to make sure that not only we produce food, but also that we maintain ecosystem, that we conserve natural resources, that we protect our planet. And I always say, as the only species that think, I'm sure the others think, but maybe they can't speak or something. But anyhow, as human being, at the top of the species, we have a responsibility to conserve the species. So we speak, we think, we control it, but with that intrinsically, with the leadership comes the responsibility, and our responsibility is really to protect. And that's where CGR is very well positioned as a whole to play that role. If we talk only about East Center, as you said at ISAM, you can do it. But as the one CGR, our responsibility became much bigger. Our potential impact could be much bigger. But to do it, we need to reorganize ourselves. To do it, what we need to do is find where there is a plus between us. So go into the UN system, you see how 194 countries talk to each other. And unfortunately, the UN system take the lowest one and make it the standard. So to be more inclusive. But in science, that's not what we need. What we need is the higher to pull us up. So if WorldFish is best at ecosystem services or at ABCD, they need to bring the others up with it. If CIMMYT is the best in, I don't know, system thinking, or maybe in a financial thing area, so they pull us up. So what we want, it's not take the lowest, it's take the highest and make it the standard and bring everybody up. And I think we have to do that. We have to do that because today it's either we will survive or we will disappear. And as a matter of fact, many of the development agencies that have much more money than us are creating their own research and development unit. So if we want to be relevant, if we want to continue to do the work, we need really to be much more leaner, much more responsive, and much more impactful. So we are not academia. So our publications are very important, but not as much as in academia, because we are in between. So understanding who we are and understanding what's our comparative advantage is very important. And capitalizing on both these areas and making the right impact that really people are looking forward for us to do is very important. And that's where really, as I am touring the centers, I'm enjoying it immensely, because it reminds me of my time in international development through international centers. And it reminds me of the passion I see with people. So be it the colleague that presented to us today, the lab on the feed quality, be it I see you on the fish breeding. So it was wonderful. You could see the passion in the eyes of the people, be it the scientists, be it the technical people. And that's what makes CGIAR very unique, is that we are in it because we believe in it. And we need, my responsibility as an EMD is to make that the system works, so that we maintain those people that are very passionate and that we allow them to make the impact that they would like to have, and to bring that and aggregate it in a way that makes really sense, that really touch the lives and livelihoods of people. So really a pleasure to get to know about Fish4Thought. I love that title. Great. And really a pleasure to get to know more about the WorldFish and to learn so much. I told the colleague yesterday, I need to go back and do my undergrad classes. So let's maybe in my retirement, I go back and get refreshed a little bit. But sincerely, visiting the labs, visiting the KMAX, talking to people really give me so much ideas, but also teach me a lot and get me to see things from your perspective. So the other point I want to tell you, in doing all of this, by the end, we are all people. And what I would like really is that one day, a scientist from WorldFish, or a technician in WorldFish, or a financial expert in WorldFish is exactly the same as the one in EMI, as the one in CIMMET, as the one in IFPRI. So having that belonging to the family together and having the same categories, having the same opportunities of growth are very important. And that's where really our employee welfare and our employee opportunities of growth and opportunities to continue career in the scientific and innovation area, it's very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ismahane. That was lovely. So to show you passion, we would love to play you a short little video.
Vâng tuần họ thủ cán này. Vâng tuần họ thủ cán này con nó. Quá thì bền. Quá thì đẹp hùi. Chúng thay chế mà còn nát. Mà lúc thế cái lăng anh ấy chế. Ai chào hùi lăng muốn ấy chế. Anh ấy chế. Đéo muốn ấy chế.
And it's projected that the world's population will grow another 2 billion people in the next 20 or 30 years. These fish look in really good condition. The key thing here for farmers is to be able to produce enough fish to feed the population in his area, but also globally. My name's John Benzie, and I'm the Acting Director of Aquatic Foods Biosciences for WorldFish, based here in Penang, Malaysia. Fish are highly nutritious, and in many parts of the world are the key components to people's nutritional security.
I just want to update you about
It's important to produce more of these foods.
the weight has increased.
One, because they're nutritious and they've been fed today. But secondly, because there's a huge demand for them that is not currently met. In this hatchery, we maintain the genetically improved farm tilapia strain known as GIFT. This fish now grows twice as fast as unimproved tilapia.
Let's try. Yes. Yep. Okay, so let's go.
When the fish are large enough,
Slowly.
we take a small piece of the fin. Doesn't harm the fish at all. And we take that sample to provide to our research partners in the UK, Errolham Institute.
Hey guys.
Hey, Torin.
Where we come in as the Earlham Institute,
You've got lots of nice tilapia.
what we do is we look to sequence the genomes of these fish and then annotate the functional and non-coding aspects of the genome to then better inform how they could then improve these fish further.
We could utilise the ability of the Nile tilapia to grow particularly well and fast.
I'm Karim Garbi. I'm Head of Genomics Pipelines at the Earlham Institute in Norwich, England. The issue that we're trying to tackle with this collaboration with WorldFish is to try and improve aquaculture in Africa and Asia of tilapia fish. To do this, we use state-of-the-art technologies to look at the genome as a whole, and in some cases very specific areas of the genome that might be of interest and linked to these traits that the farmers are interested in. So the benefits of the NovoSeq for this type of project are twofold. The first one is reducing the cost. The second benefit to us is the speed.
What's really important there is that allows us to apply multi-omic approaches, which gives us better power then to translate some of our findings to deal with my mission of improving food sustainability, but then also Earlham Institute's mission to also protect life on Earth.
This is my passion, my scientific passion really. So being able to connect the technology that we've set up in this lab to the life of farmers and the livelihood of farmers and helping them thousands of miles away with the work we're doing here in the lab is fantastic.
It's going to be important to produce not only organisms that grow faster and produce food more quickly, but also do so with less environmental impact. Feels like a worthwhile thing to do, and it's satisfying at the end of the day to think that you've made at least some small contribution to that process.
Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce our first presenter of this TED Talk, or Fish4Thought, TED Talk style. Please welcome to the stage, Laura Kaur, Research Fellow from the Aquatic Animal Health Team.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, some of you already know me. My name is Laura Kaur, and I'm here on behalf of the Aquatic Animal Health and One Health Research Team to talk to you briefly about our digital tool for our digital tracking tool for fish farm performance and health from the perspective of epidemiology. Okay, so some of you may be familiar with this. This is what a massive fish kill looks like on the floating cage farm. And I used to work for one of these farms when I was still employed by the private aquaculture sector. And the farmer would be very distraught because he lost 3 million ringgit worth of fish in a span of 3 days. That's about a bit more than 600,000 USD. And the workers would also be concerned because they would get a hefty pay cut after those losses. My job at the time was to do 3 things. First, I would have to go to the farm interview the farmer, and write down all that information onto a notebook. Secondly, I would have to go back to the office and then type out all the information into a computer so that I could actually forward that report to the upper management and maybe to someone else could help us. And thirdly, I had to find someone that the company trusted to contact them and ask for their advice on how we deal with such a matter. So, well, long story short, the investigating officers did come, but 2 to 3 weeks later, which of course is much too late. All the fish had died, and whatever samples they took from the farm had inconclusive results. So when we humans suffer some sort of illness or disease, we of course wouldn't let things go so far. Even if we feel a bit unwell, we would bring ourselves to the doctor. And, when we entered that doctor's office, I would like to ask you, do we immediately get some sort of prescription from the doctor? Well, if the doctor does that, then I would recommend you change your doctor. Normally, the answer should be no. The doctor will sit you down, ask you some questions. He wants to know about the symptoms you are having, how long you've been having this condition, and maybe ask you about what you did before you felt unwell. And he needs this information because there are more than 26,000 human diseases out there. And it will help him to quickly narrow down what your condition might be and to give you some sort of presumptive diagnosis and the right medication to go with it. And he would write all of that information down on that little piece of paper, which is your patient medical record. And if there are enough similar cases to your own, the Ministry of Health will actually issue a public warning that there is an emerging disease so that the clinics and hospitals can prepare the right medications and enough supplies to deal with the situation. Of course, we wish that we could do the same with fish. So what normally happens is that the farmer calls up his extension agent or the fisheries officer complaining, all my fish have died overnight. Do you know what I can do to save the other fish? Or what kind of medication can I buy to, remedy the situation? And if you're lucky, he might even give you some fish, which look apparently very healthy. And so actually, truthfully, it's very difficult even for an expert to tell the farmer what went wrong at the farm. They need to know some information such as the clinical signs of disease in the fish. They need to know what were the farming conditions that surrounded the mortality. And they also want to know whether the fish were handled properly before they died. And so this is where the focus of our team work lies. We are looking at the ways in which fish are affected by disease and mortality in farms. So in places such as Norway, they place a lot of importance on farm level information. They use digital surveillance data to guide and advise their decisions at the national level, to guide their policy making, and also create a very favorable environment for the industry whereby they give good feedback to the farmers based on that data. But a lot of this data is collected using very expensive advanced technologies, sometimes using software that may have very limited user capacities in the same organization. In the global south, those countries may not have access to these kind of technologies. They may have to think about whether it's economically sustainable in the long run, whether they can even afford to regularly pay for its maintenance, the repairs, which are often carried out by overseas vendors. And think about it, look around you, we are very lucky to have running electricity. Most of the time is uninterrupted supply. And if we need the internet at any point, we just drop by any cafe to get connected to their Wi-Fi. But in low-income countries, in the remote farms, they might have difficulty doing so. And so what we can agree on, I think, is that no matter what the economic standing of each country, no matter how poor or whether they're in a developing nation, everyone deserves the same opportunity to be able to access and manage their own data. And so the solution that we've come up with is for them to use something that is cheap, used on the instruments that they already have in their hands. In fact, every one of you have it in your pockets, I think. It's the mobile phone and also the computer. So this is where our digital tool comes in. It's the Fish Epidemiology and Health Economics tool. And for short, let's just call it the EPI tool. We came up with this tool together with the Norwegian Veterinary Institute. And that institute is the reference lab used by the World Organization for Animal Health. And together we wanted to use it to find out data from the local farm level to see what kind of gaps there are in their production systems that allow disease to enter and spread through the farm. And how it works is that the user just needs to download the tool to the mobile phone. And after that point, the user can collect data and continue to store data in the phone even without internet connection. When the person finally finds a place to connect to the internet at a Wi-Fi connection point, he will be able to transfer that data to a central server. On the other side, the managing team will be able to immediately see incoming data, and they'll be able to auto-compile reports based on the data to see the trends in disease. So all this data can be accessed by anyone in the world with a computer with the right password. So you can share it across different teams of researchers at a local level. Or if you feel that you need to share your data with a group of aquatic animal health experts overseas, you can also do so. Most importantly, the people at the national level can access this data as well to advise their next steps and decisions in policy making. So the tool and the resources that we have here are all open access, which means the general public can use it without having to pay any subscription fees. So we've already carried out the studies in about 5 countries in Africa and in South Asia. And we used it to generate baseline data on very different production systems, some with their indigenous tilapia, carp polyculture systems, and different catfish, and interesting species even such as the African arowana and even rainbow trout, surprisingly. And we first used the original version of the tools in Bangladesh and Egypt. Then in 2020, everyone knows COVID happened. We managed to complete a study in Nigeria funded by the US Agency for International Development, even under COVID travel restrictions because of its remote capabilities. And then we modified the tool further to do another One Health study in Bangladesh to collaborate with other CGIAR institutes, including IFPRI and ILRI. Then just last year, we went back to Africa, to Ghana and Kenya, and we continued the EPI studies funded by the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. And of course, this has the potential to support our platforms for the genetic improvement for tilapia, carp, and maybe in the near future, catfish as well. So all this big data can give us a real glimpse into what the real farming conditions are, because the farming conditions may not be accurately depicted in text alone. So through pictures, we can see the unique type of farming system each country has, and we can see the points of entry where the disease pathogen may enter and cause havoc in the farm. We also will know about the different clinical signs they will experience in their own species, which will indicate sick fish, especially in the cases where farmer insists that they have only healthy fish in the farm. Believe me, we have a lot of that. And we also see the types of input products that they use, whether it's antibiotics, supplements, fertilizers, and so on. But there is one more gap that we need to cross before we can even begin to see the benefits of this population-based data. And the answer is here. Aquatic animal health management is a two-way street, or rather, I would say it's a bascule bridge with 2 drawbridges on each side. And so on one side of the bridge is the farmer, And the farmer will only continue to give the data from the farm if he or she sees the benefits coming back to them from the other side, which is represented by scientists, fisheries officers, the extension system. And so our responsibility lies here to support that ongoing relationship through their existing extension systems. So in the words of Daniel Calarco, he's a youth advocate and community leader. He said, I cannot do everything, but I can reach out and mobilize people to work with me. And so we also worked with the local stakeholders in each country. And a lot of them consisted of working mothers, young people who just graduated and were interning with the Fisheries Commission, and also much older officers who traveled more than 10 hours by bus just to come and meet us and make those changes in the tool. And these will be the same people who will continue to communicate with the farmers, and they will also be the ones to give them back that feedback that they need. So we too developed several ways of giving feedback to the farmers. We sat down with the small-scale farmers in Nigeria to present to them our preliminary findings so that they could add on to what those findings were and maybe comment on them if we were missing something. We also developed a set of guidelines to help them to improve their farm biosecurity based on the data that they gave us. And also we worked with government agencies and vets to help them to draft the framework and outline their existing aquatic animal health strategies so that they know what are the current gaps in their system and they know in which direction to move forward to. And so before I end, there's just one thing I'd like to stress. Data accessibility is not the solution. It is just the beginning of the journey. And it's how we use that data and our further actions based on those data insights that will actually change the way that we deal with disease in aquaculture. And with this, I'd like to acknowledge the team that I work with, the Aquatic Animal Health and One Health team, led by Mohan. And special mention goes to Sadia as well, because she helped us to modify a lot of the tools. And we worked with our partner, the Norwegian Veterinary Institute, with funding from NORAD. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Laura. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Would like to introduce our next presenter now, Rodriguosa, our newly appointed Director of Aquatic Food Biosciences.
In computer science, they say garbage in, garbage out. My team and I in fish nutrition, we also say nutrient in, nutrient out. So when you eat fish and you expect to have a quality nutrient coming from the fish, actually that comes from feed. Feed is at base. However, reality, many African, Asian, and Pacific countries, feed is very expensive and represent 40 to 70% of the production cost. And people focus mainly on the price of the feed. I could even say that even those who have money, they don't have access to that. So the feed is not readily available, especially not readily available. And in addition to that, I think that the price of the feed can go down if we manage to make to produce enough feed. So the price of the feed will go down automatically. The law of the market, right? If there is enough supply or the demand, no, it's the market is when the demand and the supply are met, right? So if there is enough supply, the price will go down. So we believe that also in the feed sector. But we have to remember that the feed in the context of aquaculture in Africa and Asia is just one component. We work in the context where there are many other contributors for fish nutrition. So for example, here we have a lady who is feeding the fish. But this is not only what contributes. So we have a compost creep, for example, that is used to fertilize the pond. And by fertilizing the pond, we have natural food production in the pond, for example. So when we want to talk about the feed, and we know that the feed is a combination of ingredients, the first thing we do is that we try to understand the ingredients, the raw material. And for that, in each country, we do an ingredient scoping. We want to know what is available, what is the seasonality. So in which season do we have enough of this ingredient? What is the price of each of the ingredients available? And then how can we assess the quality of these ingredients? That's why we have a fish nutrition lab, for example, here to analyze them. And we also do digestibility to know the portion of nutrients that will remain in the fish after consumption. So all this information on the ingredients will help us develop a database, and we will be able to put the ingredients in categories like protein sources, lipid sources, energy sources, vitamin sources, and mineral sources. And once we have all that, we now develop a formula that will help us satisfy the nutrient requirements of the fish based on the formula. And after the formulation, we produce the feed and then we feed. And all this can be packaged. So we worked with a company in the Netherlands, Aqua Spa, a single spa, and we developed what we call the feed calculator. So this is an app that contains information on the local ingredients in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, the non-nutrient requirements of the different species like tilapia, carps, and catfish. And thanks to this, the farmer can just select the different ingredients available in the community and then select the fish species and the life stage, click on enter, and get a formula. And in the coming years at WorldFish, we will develop what we call a WorldFish branded feed calculators. So we are already working on that with the FASA project funded by NORAD, and there is the CASA project. In the CASA project that's coming also, there is a component on making sure we have a WorldFish branded feed calculator. And there are many reasons why we want to do that. First is that we want to make sure that using our contacts in the different countries, we have a collection of the available ingredients, the raw materials, the agricultural byproducts from animal and from also plant sources. We can collect all of them, use our experience with the fish base and all the things that we are doing in the digital sector within WorldFish and with partners to make sure that over time we have a strong database that is adaptable to different farming contexts across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. But after we have gotten our formulas, we need to produce the feed. And that's when feed technology comes into account. And for this, the ideal feed for fish is a floating feed. So we need extruders. But in the context where we don't have extruders, maybe because the technology is too advanced, there is not enough energy or skills to operate the extruder, we could work with also the palletizer or semi-automated system, like it's the case here in Bangladesh. So our office in Bangladesh supported a community to make sure that when they have the right formula, they can also have good equipment to produce quality feed for carp industry in Bangladesh. And all the knowledge that we generate through all this exercise is packaged, and we make sure that with partners like IITA in Africa. So we work with IITA to develop a better management practice guide for fish feeds and nutrition, targeting Congo and Central Africa. That was in French. And we also worked through the TAT, Technology for Africa Agricultural Transformation. The Aquaculture Compact is led by WorldFish, Nigeria. And we also made sure that we had an extension manual on quality, low-cost fish feed formulation and production. And all this is based on the work that we do as WorldFish, and we do that also with our partners. And we took the risk to pitch all this to NORAD, the Norwegian Agency for Development Corporation, 3 years ago, telling them that we would like to work in 3 African countries, Nigeria, Kenya, and Zambia, and follow all the steps that I've listed, from ingredient scoping till the production of better management practice guides adapted to many contexts in each of these countries. So they funded us, and this is an example also of collaboration between within the CG and between the CG and external partners. So to achieve this project, we work with IITA, for example, and also we work with CORAF, Central and West Africa Council for Agricultural Development. And CORAF is actually leading the project in Nigeria with support from our office, WorldFish Nigeria. Also, we work with ECP, the International Center for Insect Ecology and Physiology, and they are leading the project in Kenya with support of some of our local staff also in Kenya. In Zambia, the project is led by WorldFish in collaboration with the Natural Resource Development College, which is a vocational college based in Lusaka, where we established a wet lab where we can run advanced aquaculture experiments. So things are going on very well. But the good thing is that everything we do there, we work with local students who are vocational trainees. So at the end, they can directly go and apply these innovations to the farms where they work or create their own fish farm. So we do not only work at the technical and scientific level, master or PhD, but we work with people who are really technicians. And we collaborate also with SLU, the Swedish University of Agricultural Science, to train PhD students from Zambia and Nigeria. And we have Ale Aqua as our industry partner. So they bring in the industry perspective. So this is an example of an integrated project based on what we have done as preliminary studies in the countries where we work and setting a team that works together in Africa, in Europe, and Asia to achieve the project. And the inception workshop of this project was done here in Malaysia in 2022. And in 2023, we went to Nigeria. So we rotate. Every year we go to one of the project countries. We were in Nigeria, and the ambassador of Norway came to open the workshop with us. And during this visit in Nigeria, we actually interact closely with the local feed millers to know whether what we have planned is aligned with their objectives, whether we are addressing the right challenges, and whether they think the project will substantially support them when we complete. So we get the feedback and we make adjustments for the year, the following year. So what we are going to do now will be really adapted to the context of Nigeria, Kenya, and Zambia, taking into account their new realities. So we are about 14 people in the team, Fish Feeds and Nutrition. And for your information, we are hiring a senior scientist. So if you know anyone who could take that role, I will be very happy. Thank you for your attention.
I would like to invite Rajita, Global Communications Lead of WorldFish, to present on our latest project on Asia-Africa Blue Tech Superhighway.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome. Good morning and good evening to those who are joining us virtually from different countries. I'd like to start by introducing you all to Muriam Begum and her husband, Nurul Alam. They both live in a tiny village in Cox's Bazar. It's a district in Bangladesh. And Nurul Alam, he's a salt farmer. That's because Cox's Bazar has massive salt fields, and it actually produces 95% of salt in the country. Yet the region has a very high level of poverty. Salt farming doesn't generate much income. It's a marginal source of livelihood for millions of farmers like Nurul Alam. So a few years back, a project introduced seaweed farming to the community. And that has been a turning point in the lives of Alam and his wife, Muriam Begum. Now, seaweed is a plant that grows rapidly, naturally in salty waters, and it can be used in many ways. It can be used in skin products. We have had seaweed chips and medicinal products, and even in packaging materials. So Muriam, she harvests the seaweed, takes it to the market, and sells it at a little bit of a profit, brings that income home. It's working out so well. Seaweed is also very hardy, so it can grow in tough conditions, and it's environmentally beneficial, which means that it can help in conserve biodiversity, and also it can slow down climate change because it absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It has been especially empowering for women in the community because they harvest seaweed, and very smartly they have set up small-scale businesses so they can sell and supply to the industries there, which is also bringing them some women empowerment component into the project. Now, thousands of miles away on another continent, Salim Baraka, he's a small-scale fisher who lives at Kanamai Beach in Kenya. Every morning, he takes his boat and goes out into the ocean, trying to see what waters have in store for him that day. It can vary from day to day. If it is a time between May to September, he could be lucky and get a pretty good catch. For example, the barracuda he's holding. Salim is, by the way, the guy in the orange t-shirt. And there are other days where his catch is not that great. It's a very erratic source of livelihood these days. Why? Because overfishing, there has been degradation of ecosystems, and climate change. Climate change has made waters more warm, more acidic, which is hurting the natural fish stock. Also, small-scale fishes in countries like Kenya and Africa, largely, in spite of a massive coastline, these small-scale fishers have to operate with rather low-tech, informal fish landing facilities, which means that there's not much growth opportunity. This is how a landing site could look. This is from, again, the beach in Kenya. Now, you would say this is a very simplistic comparison of two farmers on two entirely different continents. But it's not that far-fetched because it gives a glimpse into the bigger picture. The reality is the two continents have a vast gulf in the amount of aquatic food that's being produced. Africa, it contributes 6.6% to the global fish and seafood production, excluding Egypt. On the other hand, Asia contributes 50%, excluding China. The reason why we exclude Egypt and China, because these are countries that are way ahead in terms of production, so they will mask a fair comparison. Which brings us to the point that countries in Asia are far ahead in terms of technologies and tools that has helped them unleash their blue economy and expand their aquatic production. The task in front of us then is, how can we bring these technologies and solutions that have been scaled out successfully in Asia to implement them in Africa so they can ramp up their production and the continent can unleash their blue economy. Last year, we started a project called Asia-Africa Blue Tech Superhighway that's aiming to do just that. It's a project that's led by WorldFish in collaboration with a slew of partners across different countries. It's generously funded by the UK government over a period of 7 years. And what's unique about this project is that it's going to harness South-South collaboration to assess, adapt, and scale out evidence-based solutions and technologies across the two continents. And how is it going to do that? It's going to use nature-based solutions and tools for sustainable management of marine and coastal resources to deliver technologies and solutions that can improve food and nutritional security, enhance nature or marine ecosystems, and also improve livelihoods and create new sources of income, all in line with the vision that WorldFish has for the world. Healthy people, healthy planet, and shared prosperity. The project is aligned, it's going to deliver along 4 work packages or 4 technical areas. I will not go into details because of time. I'm going to jump to the next part as I want to really talk to you about the South-South collaboration. So why South-South collaboration? From the lens of my experience, South-South collaboration perhaps is not harvested or harnessed enough in the sector of agriculture or food systems. While I have seen its power, the role that it can play in the public health sector, it has brought countries together. Stakeholders can interact with their counterparts on the challenges these countries are facing and policies that are needed, investments that are needed, and how do you bring that to the public? So South-South collaboration has many benefits. These are some of the benefits. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them, that it can accelerate deployment. Why? Because when you have peer-to-peer learning happening, the engagement can be really strong. It's so much more effective when you hear from your counterparts or peers in other countries. The knowledge uptake can be very effective. Another point that I wanted to point out, that it can foster country-led implementation, which means the countries can be now in the driver's seat. They can have ownership of the work that's going on. And that means faster uptake, long-lasting gains, and full ownership of the country, even when the project has ended. Lastly, harnessing synergies, of course, because if you have similarities between the two countries, you can synergize and kind of see opportunities for mutual gains and greater investments. This quickly shows the map of implementation, the different countries. The project is going to be rolled out in 2 phases. So this is phase 1, which is going to last till 2027. And it shows the different work packages that will be implemented in these countries. As you can see, the dark blue countries, these are the knowledge partners in the far Southeast Asia region. Bangladesh is going to be both a knowledge partner and a country, I think, which will implement 2 work packages. Now, how do we give shape to South-South collaboration? How do we operationalize? What we are doing is we are working on setting up a country knowledge exchange network that will provide a space for sharing, learning, and adaptation. A space that will bring together implementers and policymakers together from different countries so they can exchange their practical challenges, real-world challenges, experiences, insights, and that will help us as listeners and facilitators to co-create new knowledge, which can then be used globally and even for implementation by different countries. So it's a huge opportunity for us to connect the peers in different countries. And in practice, what does that mean is we're going to start rolling out a series of virtual workshops that are going to be thematically focused, that will harvest the interest of different countries, maybe specifically for WPs or work packages, or synergized across all work packages, or even on broader themes within the AABS framework. And the workshops will be structured for joint learning, so participatory workshops that will be facilitated. And to supplement that, we are going to offer research excursions or in-person field trips. Countries like Kenya and Tanzania can be brought over to, let's say, Bangladesh to experience a seaweed farming project in real life, because experiential learning can be really powerful and effective way of learning and very motivating as well. Together, we can create new practical knowledge that can be then used globally and in countries. So while these are the outcomes that we are looking for, aligned with the different technical work packages, another aim, or a more silent aim for us, is to model a South-South collaboration framework that can then inspire more such spaces so countries can be brought together for learning from each other. If we are to have, let's say, gains on greater scale, gains that are going to long last, we need to bring countries together to learn from each other. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Rajita. Now it's over to Alex. Actually, like the champion of our digital transformation of our aquatic food systems. And it's a great segue from Rajita's introduction to AABS to now Alex presenting on aquadata, so digital transformation. So over to you.
Thanks very much. I realize I'm standing in between you and tea, so I hopefully you're a little bit better behaved than my children when they don't get their snacks. So we'll kick right off. I hope I don't need to remind anyone the importance of data, the excellent talks we've seen so far, and the audience here. Data is information, and with information, we create knowledge and evidence. But also the important thing about this is when we make decisions based on knowledge and evidence, we need to trust that knowledge and evidence, right? And this is especially pertinent right now in the sort of emerging era of artificial intelligence, where it can hallucinate. It sort of joins concepts together just because it finds them together, but there's no credible source for that information. This is one of my favorite quotes about fisheries, and it's quite a nice one, because when you think about crops or forestry and things, imagine doing it when they're invisible and moving around. It would be significantly harder. So what that means for fisheries is that all of the information we get, well, most of it anyway, has to come from the fishers themselves. So they should be the owners of that data, and they're providing that data by when they come back on shore and they're landing their fish or their invertebrates or whatever it might be that we classify as fish. They are providing that data for the management of that ecosystem. So I moved to Timor-Leste in 2016 as a postdoc with WorldFish, and I was sort of in charge of a kind of project called the Fisheries Sector Support Program. The only problem was we had no data on anything about the fishery, like where the fishers went, how much they caught, what types of species they caught. And so we started to think about ways in which we could build a system around that. We started really small. We started with collectors gathering data at landing sites, just from 5 sites around the country. And then we partnered well. And so this is something I always advise to people is if you can't do it yourself, then find a partner that can. And we partnered with a private sector company called Pelagic Data Systems, who make a solar-powered vessel tracker. And what that does, and you can see how small it is because it's on some very tiny canoes here. The man there basically doesn't fit in his canoe, but we can still get a tracker in there. And so what this provides is very, very high resolution movement data. All of these squiggly, colorful lines are boat trips or fishing trips, and these might be canoes, so the ones that stick very close to the coast, and the ones that are transporting fish or going out to fish, those are the motorboats. And so what this gives us is effort. So in fisheries, we have the catch, so we have the amount of fish, but effort sums up how hard they tried to catch that fish. And so when you have catch and you have effort, you can compare that. That's called relative abundance over time. So you can compare one area to another, or you can compare last year to this year. And that shows us how is the system doing? Are those fisheries stable? So then we started to put together a system that was digital. So instead of sort of writing all this down, we collected, as Laura helpfully introduced, so I don't have to talk about it, there's sort of Kobo forms where it's on a phone or on a tablet, and information is coming in real time. So as the fish are landed, if they're recorded right there, you have that information straight away. And now with automated analytics, you can analyze it in real time as well. So using open source coding environments, we wrote a code that basically took all those data, validated them, checked there was no nonsense in there, you know, like meter-long sardines or what have you. And we built a system to visualize that data to help the government manage those fisheries that previously they knew nothing about. And I'm happy to say that this has been quite an impactful bit of work in Timor. This system, since 3 years, has been nationally adopted by the government. They pay for it. And so it's been a real success story. And so we are kind of building off this to scale as part of what Rajita introduced in the Asia-Africa Blue Tech Superhighway. So learning from these approaches to scale on from there. One interesting development from this is that actually we can now look at what is caught and look at the nutrition potential of the catch to combat specific deficiencies, for example, in Timor. And the reason this came about is because of the process of co-designing systems and constantly doing iterations and going back and saying, does this work? Is this useful? What do you need? That kind of dialogue drives the design of things, that co-design. And so what was needed was, how do we tackle malnutrition in Timor using aquatic foods? And this sort of a kind of phrase that coins that describes this quite well is a fish is not just a fish. Different fish have different nutrients, and so we can actually now model by gear types, by habitat, and by species what that catch actually contains in terms of nutrients. Having this rich data also feeds a lot of new research directions. For example, you can test technologies in fisheries because you have good data on the catch rates, the composition of what's being caught. This one on the right was testing FAD, so fish aggregating devices, and looked at the composition of what's being caught, the nutrient potential, but also sees them as kind of a climate smart technology, because what it's doing is taking pressure off of reef systems and providing a kind of more sustainable stock of fish with the same gear types. Another aspect that I won't dwell too much on, but we were asked by the government of Timor, well, can we use PESCUS, what we called this this system, can we use it past the first point of sale? So can we track where the fish go when they're sold? And so we kind of scratched our heads and got together and thought about it. And we thought, well, we can still track the motorbikes that supply the fish across the country. And then what about food safety? Well, we can track how hot the fish get as they're being transported. Are they being stored properly? What are the handling practices? And so we can actually look at now how fish travel and how safe they are when they reach their final destination. And the way that the system is built, it's modular, it's made of components. So what this means when we are thinking about scaling to other places is that it's not like PESCUS as the kind of trademark the system, you buy this off the shelf and you use it in Kenya or use it in Tanzania. It's a code, so you can take one bit of it that's very relevant and useful and you can use it where that's really needed. For example, if a catch system already exists, like in Tanzania, we can actually use that already and then just build the analytics or the visualization around that. And that's why it's really scalable. So as Rajita said, this is part of the Asia-Africa Blue Tech Superhighway supported by the UK government. And this forms Work Package 1, the digital coast of that, working initially in Kenya, Tanzania and Mozambique. And also as part of the ProFish Blue project supported by SADC and the African Development Bank, we are also scaling this in Malawi. So it's kind of leveraging projects to scale this to more countries and learn lessons as we go. But the really important thing, as I stressed before, is that this has to be a dialogue. It has to be convening people together, and what is needed, what isn't. It's not about a blueprint which we take from somewhere and sort of put on another place. It's about what can we take from this that works well and use it in this context, and what isn't needed and things. So also touched upon previously is how do we illustrate the value of data to those fishers that need to be helping to collect it. One, they should own it, but it's quite a difficult thing to do, especially when we have a history of collecting data for fisheries, or governments have a history of this. I was in Myanmar working in 2015, and I walked into the Department of Fisheries in Miek, which is in Tanintari in the south of Myanmar, and this was the data storage room. And so if fishers come in and they see this, what would they think about, like, why they're providing all this data? Why are they filling in logbooks? All of it is lost. None of it gets back to them. What do they learn from all of this data collection? It has to be valuable. And so there are various sort of mechanisms or areas that we can prove the value. A lot of them, you know, one simple thing is safety at sea. So well-being of fishers is a huge thing. It's not just economic well-being. It's like safety and community is really important. And so if we can enhance safety at sea, that's a huge thing, especially in increasing climate variability. If we can enhance the value of their catch by providing new markets or providing access to new markets through traceability, transparency, and digital tools. And one which is we've been working on a little bit here in Malaysia is around using data to increase or empower the voice of fishers in the blue economy. So you're all sitting somewhere underneath that red square there. That's the south of Penang Island. And the three sort of circles are a planned 3 islands project of land reclamation in the south of Penang Island. And so what we can see here is how using tracking data like that could actually generate evidence, and was used to kind of look at, are these areas heavily used by fishers? What could be the implications of that? And how could you actually evaluate the cost of those lost fishing grounds? I won't go into the case in the picture, but that's from Taiwan, where exactly this happened, and fishers utilized tracking and catch data to empower their voice in a legal case against lost fishing grounds. So shameless self-promotion, a paper that just came out 2 days ago was looking at actually what is the impact of PESCAS, of this system in Timor-Leste. And what came out of it is there are clear benefits, youth engagement, youth employment, and also collaboration between government agencies and also between communities, stakeholders, and the government has really improved since this system has been in place. And also it's increased investment, both external and government investment in the fisheries sector. But there's still a long way to go. That we didn't find any real regulatory policy that has come from fisheries. So they're not looking at, right, this fishery is unsustainable or needs careful attention, so we need these laws in place. That is still yet to come. It's quite susceptible to political change if they don't want to back it going forward. Fisher level incentives in a place where smartphones are not that common, they're quite expensive still, power and internet penetration is not that wide, and digital divide, so digital literacy, it really restricts the ability for these systems to make an effect in particularly rural areas. And with that, I will say thank you very much for listening.